So, welcome to this latest episode of Interesting Lives of Ordinary People. Hi, Luke. And if you're joining me today on YouTube, it would be great if you could share this video with others who you might think would find it interesting. Or if you're listening to it on your favorite podcast platform, again, leave us a review and let other people know where to find us. So I want to introduce you to my guest today, who's actually really quite special. So I don't know whether the ordinary people label necessarily applies to him, but, we're going to find out more about Fulcrum DJedi. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah.
Yes. And Falcrrim is an energy reader. He does astral travel. So he calls himself the bridge between our world and the galactic world. And for some of you, this is going to be slightly mind-opening. It certainly was for me. So sit tight, and it's going to be a fun conversation. He's also recently published a book, which I'm about a third of the way through reading. It's called Powerful Galactic Beings, a cosmic guidebook to our galactic heritage. I think one of the things you said to me, Fulcrum, is that you see your role as kind of a messenger, bringing messages from this galactic world back to us and doing some really fun and sometimes scary things in that process. So with that little introduction, I want to say welcome to this conversation.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So I want to begin by asking you, Fulcrum. Now, your name is very cool. And for I think people who are maybe Star Wars fans or Star Trek fans, that's not a genre I've ever been very interested in. They probably understand exactly what the significance is. But for those of us who don't completely get it, can you maybe give us a little bit more insight? Because that's not the name that you were given at birth, I understand.
I think names change over time. When you access different dimensions, then your your name will change. For example, there's a planet that was destroyed in our solar system, which is now the asteroid belt.
Mm-hmm.
This planet has two names. From the third dimensional perspective, it's called Maldek. From the fifth dimensional perspective, it's called Tiamat. Sometimes people know it as the Tiamat Wars.
Okay.
So names vary from people, places, and things. So the Jedi part comes from ancient Egypt, where the Jedi came from Atlantis, and they were kind of magicians or sages that would be transferring information and knowledge from previous civilizations. And Fulcrum is kind of the bridge between. I was given that name by my guides while I was in Peru.
Thank you. Thank you. That makes sense. I think we have different chapters in our lives as well. And even though we might not necessarily all change our names, but certainly it feels sometimes that we are a different person in this particular,
Mm.
iteration of our life and the way we show up. So I love that you've kind of expanded that into how you can even have a different name. So let me ask you about the galactic beings bit, because for a lot of us, especially those of us who've kind of maybe been influenced by the perceived wisdom of, aliens and things like that, there's a little bit of ignorance or maybe a skepticism around that. So can you maybe just, for someone who's never heard of anything like this, tell us what you mean?
Well, you could. I'm not a big fan of the term aliens, even though they are from other dimensions or other worlds or realms. The term beings, I think, is better, and I think they're just another level of consciousness because everything is consciousness. So whether it's a flower or a person or a crystal, they can all have levels of consciousness.
Mhm.
So like the alien part of it is kind of just an unfamiliar consciousness that you're connecting to. They can come through as a dolphin being, an aquatic, a feline, but it's just another level of consciousness. When you
Yes.
expand out further and further, then you're going to get to the greater extents to be able to connect to different levels of consciousness.
And would you say that obviously the things, the flowers and the animals, we're aware because they're in our dimension and we can see them. But what you have experienced is other beings that we don't see, but they're
Mm,
there.
yeah.
And I'd like to ask you, when was it the first time that you realized that there was this whole world of beings that is beyond what your eyes can see and your, physical senses maybe were able to perceive?
I think it comes in stages. I think at about between 3 and 5 years old, I was interacting with light beings from other worlds. But then I had to have my earthly experience and go to school and do all of that stuff, and they kind of let me do my thing, and I kind of just dealt with like the schooling system and what it was for the earthly existence. I'd always have some connection, but it would be I'd be involved in the earthly life too much until 2012, where it was a an interaction with an off-world consciousness,
Hmm.
where I was staying in a hut in Weymouth in England, and a couple of Zeta Grey aliens landed on the roof that were trying to basically attack my consciousness and put a Zeta seal on so that I wouldn't be able to activate or connect to my star family or any other realms. So that was kind of my re-initiation into that kind of world. But even after that, it took maybe another 8 years until 2020, where it just fully exploded.
Okay, now there were some things you said in there which probably most people listening have no idea what you meant. So, so we're going to take it back first of all to when you were sort of 3 to 5 years old and clearly
Mm.
still very young. And when you said you were interacting with light beings, can you maybe tell what does that mean? What sort of, can you give us an example of an interaction you had?
They would come and teach me things, show me things about where I was from,
Oh,
the
so like
star
you saw them
system.
in your mind's eye, or were they actually, did they actually feel like they were there in the room with
No,
you?
they were right there.
They were
Yeah,
right there.
yeah. So before you go through the indoctrination process of schooling, where they try
Yeah.
and close down your abilities, children will come through activated and available to be able to perceive other dimensional like layers of reality.
Yeah.
So I was interacting at that level with them until I had to go through the indoctrination process where they kind of allowed me to have the experience of like, yeah, there's your earthly time, enjoy. And
Yeah.
then like they were still around, but I was kind of somewhat disconnected from them.
Yes. And were your parents at the time sort of aware of this happening? I'm curious to know how they responded, because often that sort of shutting down, even before you go to school, comes from, the family, the physical family that doesn't get it or don't believe it, and therefore will maybe say, oh, it's just your imagination kind of thing.
I think my family always knew that there was something different going on here because I was always aware. Even when I was like, my mum would say when I was in the pram or in the pushchair, my eyes were always looking around and active. Even when like they say it takes a certain amount of time for the eyes to focus on different people, like
Yeah.
mine were observing straight away.
You were seeing things that maybe
Yeah,
others.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
and then yeah, my family's always been kind of just let me do my thing.
Hmm. So you went to school, and what was it like to, obviously you were young enough to not really consciously know that, oh, this is really different. It's in some ways a bit of a dumbing down of what was possible for you. But I'm curious to know what were you like as a school child? Did you notice that you were different even then?
Yeah, I would have thought so. Especially the others. Others would have been like, he's a bit different.
Hmm.
Yeah, I just like you have the classic black sheep or or person that's asks the question and then gets kicked out of the class.
Mm.
Religious studies was always a class I would always be immediately removed from. Not for doing anything like naughty or whatever, just asking questions, but questions where the teachers didn't have the answers for.
Yes.
And if they were to attempt to explore that avenue, then it may expose everything that they're trying to hold together.
Yes. Yeah. And that makes me think about a lot of young children who get sort of labeled as disruptors or, hyperactive. Do you do you think that maybe there's something going on there similar to what you were experiencing?
I think that the earthly indoctrination system will always try and label something they don't understand,
Mm,
whether it's ADHD or all of these other labels they try and put on things, but they're avoiding looking at what's actually happening. If a child's asking a question that the teacher doesn't have the answer to, then the teacher feels threatened, and their entire existence would feel threatened, and their job.
yes.
So they've been led to believe something their entire life. And when you get some young child that's questioning that, they're like, well, that must be a bad child, must be ADHD.
Yes. So 2012, you mentioned that you had this experience of visits from these grey, it was interesting you call them aliens, having previously said that that was not a term you would use. So they're obviously baddies. These greys are baddies, aren't they?
Well, not everything is bad of any race.
Hmm.
Um, but these particular beings, like I was staying in Weymouth in like a little hut quite near the beach.
Hmm.
What I didn't learn, I only learned when I was writing my book, was that right next to where I was staying was a military base that has underground tunnels and different. They used to store weapons there, and it was like a naval unit. So a lot of the navy is involved in off-world situations.
Right.
Um, so the ones that I was involved with, so the experience was I was being attacked of a night, but it was not my physical body. It felt like my consciousness was being thrown around the hut. And they tried to put like a Zeta seal on. So it's like a dimensional page where you won't be able to access higher realms.
Oh, wow.
And then I woke up in the morning with the words Zeta exposed. And I thought, what the hell is that? So it took a while to research and look online. And in 2012, it was pretty unfamiliar to have ETs and different beings like explained on the internet. But there was something about these little grey aliens called Zeta Greys. They're from the star system Zeta Reticuli. A good, like a big portion of them are pretty like negatively orientated.
Hmm.
There is a small portion of them, often called like gardeners, which go around and assist different civilizations with collecting samples, DNA, stuff like this, but in a
Hmm.
positive sense. Um, the ones that I came into contact with were less of the less than positive.
So when you say that you felt your consciousness being thrown around,
Hmm.
were you kind of like asleep and in a dream state? And can you explain what that means? Because I think, it'd be helpful for us to really understand how that could have worked.
Yeah, so when you sleep, your astral body can travel out and you can go visit different places. At this point, I wasn't fully activated and I wasn't really remembering dreams. So I was surprised to remember the word Zeta exposed because I was eating too much sugar, smoking cigarettes, eating meat. So I was kind of blocked off from that level of like experience.
Yeah.
I didn't remember dreams. I'd go to sleep and just wake up. I didn't think people dreamed. I thought that's odd. So when I remembered this, I thought, what a strange situation. But every night, your astral body will leave the physical body and go off to different dimensions, different realms. Some of it can be different star systems where you'll go for training or learning, like almost like universities. But it'll be universities on a different dimensional level.
Yeah. So when people have strange or sometimes prophetic dreams, is that what's happening?
Yeah, because time is not linear.
Hmm.
When you go to sleep, your astral body can experience any area in time. You can go back in time, you can go forward in time. So you can be picking up information from both.
Yeah.
And when you are activated and you kind of clean the physical body to be able to receive the information, like limited sugar and other things that will pollute the physical body, then you can start bringing back this information from the past and the future.
Yeah. So it's like, you're cleaning your vessel and making it as easy for it to receive these messages and connections.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And before you kind of became aware of this ability to connect, what were you doing? What was your kind of, you probably had a normal 3D kind of reality that you lived in, what was your profession? What were you planning to do with your life?
Well, I don't think I've ever really been normal.
Whatever that means. It's a terrible word.
I kind of just followed what I wanted to do and what I was was happy doing. So for the first kind of career or whatever you want to call it, I used to be a professional skateboarder. So I would travel around and do uh, different skateboard videos and travel around. Um, Interestingly, I have a skateboard on board the craft as well. I've been told that
Oh,
I've got to stop skateboarding on the craft as well.
oh, why? Because
Maybe
it's too
there's other beings around, and you don't want to knock one of them over.
okay. Yeah.
So my soul's my soul, so it's always had that sort of rebellious nature in it, like whether it's in the earthly realm or on the galactic side. So that's just how it is. And then after like I kind of transitioned from skateboarding, it went into photography. So I was doing photography for 7 or 8 years, and then that transitioned into whatever's going on now.
And that's the bit that's I think you said you're an energy reader, astral travel, but also a messenger. So let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, um, most of your astral travel happens at night, I'm guessing, or do you connect with these beings during the day as well when you're awake?
Yeah, like you can remote viewing, like a lot of messages and information comes through while I'm on buses.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if it's the ego that's distracted with the outside world, so like the channel's clearer, so then information can come through. But I always get a lot of messages while on buses.
And I think I want to kind of simplify what that actually means because the way you're describing it, I think many of us have like sudden downloads of things that come to us. So, for example, I've I've had entire poems come to me, and I'm not a poet, I'm not somebody who sort of has loved writing poetry or even reading a lot of poetry. I mean, I like the odd nice poem, but I've had times when suddenly like something's come to me and I've just literally just sat and just written it down and it's come up with a poem. It's just amazing. So I think that's maybe a tiny example of how we all have the ability to receive, ideas or inspiration or messages. Is that what we're talking
Absolutely.
about? But what you have maybe is more because you're more consciously aware of these beings, that you're more open to receive slightly more nuanced messages. Is that? Would that be fair?
Everybody has the potential of connecting to either different consciousness or other beings, or even your guides. Your guides will come through, give you messages, signs, symbols. Sometimes this can be seen as like repeating numbers
Hmm.
with like numerology, angel numbers. Sometimes they're called like
Yeah.
1111 or so. I get a lot of these all the time. But you can also have intuitive nudges where they kind of push you into a certain area to think about a certain thing, or they'll send thoughts or ideas in your direction.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's not always galactic. Sometimes it can be super mundane. The other day, I got off the bus. I used a bank, like a ATM in Bolivia, and I was in a rush and I'd left my card in the machine and completely
Mhm.
forgot about it. Went about my business for 2 or 3 days, and then until I needed to get some money out, I had no idea. And I was on the way to, what was I buy? I was on the way to buy some oats, and as I was walking past this ATM with the bank was open, my guide said, "You need to get some money out of there now." So I got my wallet out and I was like, "Ah, would you look at that? My card's gone."
Mm.
And I went inside the bank and they said, "Oh, we've got your card here."
Sometimes we hear a voice that tells us to do something or warns us against something. And often we don't know where that's come from. We think it's a premonition or, it's some kind of sixth sense. But the way you've described it, it could be one of these beings or one of our guides who's actually talking to us.
Absolutely. Like even your higher self can be giving you messages.
Yeah.
Another like my guides woke me up the other night. I'd booked a an apartment around the corner, but I went there and I had to cancel it. Strange smell in the room, and I had to so I left that place. But I'd already booked it on an app, so I went to bed, and my guides woke me up at about 10 o'clock at night and said, "You need to cancel this app. You need to cancel this booking, otherwise you'll be charged the full amount the next day."
Oh, wow.
And I was already asleep, and they'd woken me up.
I think it's glitchy. Do you want to try another place, or what do you think? Ask your guides what they think we should do.
I've tried downstairs. Is it possible to pause it?
Yes, I can pause it. So we're back, and Fulcrum is in a new location. He hasn't astral traveled.
Not this time. I had to explore and find the router.
Yes. So hopefully this will be the final destination in terms of this podcast location for you. So what I wanted to, we didn't finish the story about how you got out of this Zeta Grey bind you almost got into. And I think you were, maybe I interrupted you. You were trying to explain to us how they could come and mess with your consciousness. What were they actually trying to do? And why did they pick on you? Did they see you as a big threat of some sort?
I don't know if they saw me as a threat. I've had previous incarnations where I've had interactions with these Zeta Greys. There's in galactic history, there's a time called the Orion Wars,
Mhm.
and I was part of a Syrian Starfleet during the Orion Wars, and I was positioned around the Rigel star, and this is where kind of like the Zeta Grey like stronghold or headquarters is.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure if it's because of my interaction with them then that caused them to like interfere with what I was doing in my earthly experience. But they tried to stop or limit people activating their potential.
Yes. And the threat to them is what? Of us activating our potential and you in particular, maybe reconnecting with the knowledge that was already in you, but maybe schooling and everything had maybe sort of put it into a storage facility. that you couldn't access until we were ready.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've had quite a few experiences. In 2012 was my first experience with them, and that was the most, I wouldn't say unsettling, but I'd say most unexpected.
Hmm.
But I do like off-world missions and different travels of a night where I've come into contact with these greys that have been involved with the cabal on Earth, whether they've been transporting people or substances off the Earth. So it's kind of, now that I'm aware of them, they don't really affect me
Yeah.
because it's more a case of exploring. They can attack you telepathically and even apply false thoughts, false memories, and different kind of false feelings. You can have a vision and be like, "Oh, that's a loved one," but they're just projecting that it is a loved one, really. But behind it is a Zeta Grey. So
Mm.
this is why it's always good to read the energy of the being
Yeah.
before interacting with it, because you can be like, that doesn't seem like something my loved one would do.
Yeah. Yes.
And then you look behind and you're like, oh, there's a grey there.
And just maybe coming back to, you said it was unexpected because obviously at this point you had not completely activated, your connection to your um galactic guides. How did, so in a sort of dream state, what happened? What were you feeling? Can you remember? What did that no consciousness being knocked around how did that manifest for you physically or emotionally?
Well, it was unusual. It felt like, yeah, it just felt like there was an attack on my consciousness and my astral body was being thrown around the hut.
Mm.
I There's a movie called Doctor Strange.
Hmm.
It's like a Marvel film where they show out of body experiences and different astral travels. It was exactly like that, where you're being thrown around and you go through things, but it's like it's a different dimensional layer that's on top of this reality.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
And
our consciousness is not fixed just to the body. We can leave.
yes, which is kind of what happens when people have near-death experiences and they're
Exactly.
able to
Yeah.
kind of see what's going on. Yeah. But um had you, or if someone else was experiencing that and they didn't know what was happening and it was the Greys were successful in doing that, then how would their physically they would not necessarily change, but they would just, their consciousness would be caged, I think you said. They would no longer be allowed to access the other dimensions and these galactic beings. Is that right?
Yeah. Because it will be like an energetic barrier
Okay.
that limits you from getting to or limits you access to other like areas of information.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. And so what did you learn from, did who came to your rescue? Because obviously at this point it was the first time it happened to you. Who saved you? Because clearly they were not successful, otherwise you wouldn't be connecting to all these beings and doing what you do now.
Yeah. So I did a quantum hypnosis session
Hmm.
and I wanted to explore what happened in this situation, like who was involved, who arrived. And what I got back was that it was the Irma. So these are like feline beings that are like they have a humanoid structure. They're bipedal, but it's like a 3 meter tall lion or a 3 meter tall tiger.
Yeah.
And I've had connections with them going all the way back to the Lyra constellation.
Mm.
So as Lyra was being kind of destroyed, there was like a mass evacuation of different people, and I connected with the Irma in that situation.
Are they sort of the same family as the white lions or not?
So the guy that I connect with he's called like King Rua of the Irma. So he's like king of the lions, and he's a white lion,
Okay.
but he's part of like the Irma faction. There are white lions that are part of Sirius A that kind of are connected with mystery schools and connected to Egypt as well. But
Mm,
those are the ones from Sirius A.
okay. So he was kind of your protector in that particular situation.
Yeah,
Mm.
with the greys. Yeah, I have a distinct vision of him just slapping one of the greys against the wall. Yeah,
Wow.
I get a buzzing on my crown now. So,
Wow.
and sometimes, like when I go on my astral travels, he collects me overnight to go on some mission or to for some meeting that we've got to go to for the Galactic Federation, and I see his head real big, like in my third eye. He's like got gold armor on, like, but he's like real close to my face, like a real big head.
So he do you feel his presence with you when you go on these travels and
On some of them, for
yeah.
sure. I kind of meet a whole load of different beings. So depending on where I'm going, um, and what I'm doing, and I'll be meeting different people.
Yeah. Yeah. When you say people, it's mainly sort of galactic beings or
Yeah, different beings. Sorry,
yes.
I had a little fella come and just pick up some of his stuff there.
Okay, okay.
Little youngling came by. Yeah, so mainly
Oh,
it's beings, but there are people. Like a lot of the Palladians are people,
right.
like humanoids, but
Yeah.
just from a higher dimension.
Yes.
So they've got abilities or gifts and access to telepathy that we will be moving towards. It's just they're
Mhm.
on a higher level from us.
Yes. And before we sort of get on to that, the moving to a higher level in the telepathic communication that I think more and more people are becoming aware that they have the ability to do that. But do all these beings have souls? I mean, I'm curious to know whether a soul is something that is, let me see if I can word this question right. Does every being, every consciousness, is every consciousness a soul? Or is our soul just an element of sort of source consciousness?
So it is that, like I think Rumi, the mystic, said it best that like we're all like a drop of water in the ocean, and we've all got access to the ocean.
Yes.
Um, but there are some beings that aren't fully organic, so we say. So there are grey beings that are somewhat robotic or synthetic.
Mm.
So they're more of a programmed sentience rather than a souled being, as in like you have a soul within a being. It's
Yes.
more of just like a like a like a robot or an android, something that will be programmed commands but won't be
Yes.
able to think for itself.
Yes. And when that physical form is gone, that the unlike with the consciousness, human consciousness or galactic beings consciousness, which the consciousness can just travel and go anywhere. It's not limited to its body. Is it
Because
similar
mm,
for them too?
they're just a program. So it'll be like taking a CD out of your computer or out of your DVD player and just putting it down. And that'll be their level of, so we say soul, because it's just a
Mm.
program.
Okay.
But as in beings and galactic beings, these are just vehicles. So our soul can travel to another vehicle.
Yeah. And do you know where you, I mean, do we have an origin story, all of us? Do we kind of begin somewhere or could we have incarnated as different galactic beings or
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. There'll be, so we say, dimensional journeys that you'll
Mm.
take throughout the galaxy. So you may have a life as an Arcturian being, and you'll pick up the characteristics or teachings from their star system, and then you'll bring it to Earth to maybe offer that skill to the people of Earth while we're going through this ascension and through the shift.
Yes.
With the recent cloning situation with Hollywood and synthetic beings that are being like pushed out more and more. There's a bigger portion of synthetic beings or just empty vessels that are walking around, which means that entities or other attachments can just jump into it and use that vehicle to maneuver the physical realm.
Oh, wow. That's a scary thought. And so what would have happened to the original person, you know?
If they, well, for example, for Hollywood, then the original will be taken out of commission, a cloned vehicle will be produced, and then an entity will jump into it to ride that vehicle out, as long as it follows the narrative of whatever they're pushing.
Wow.
This can be done with presidents, prime ministers, popes.
And it comes back to your point earlier about really, it's really important to read the energy and
Absolutely, yeah.
one of the things that you do. So can you maybe talk a bit about that? What does that involve, and how do people maybe who are not trained or not, maybe are early on that journey, what does it mean? How can they become better readers of energy?
I think pattern recognition is a big part of it,
Mhm.
to see the subtle differences in what they're doing. So you can take Joe Biden or Jim Carrey as a couple of examples, whereas you know what they were like before, and you're now seeing what they're like now. So there needs to be that element of discernment and intuition to be able to see that there has been some difference that's taken place here. So
Yes.
is that a difference of an organic feel, or is that a difference because the first one's been removed and is now been replaced by an entity or a being of not of more of a regressive state?
Mm-hmm.
That there are a whole number of beings or a number of people, so we say, that have been moved to the side and replacements have been put in place.
Yeah. And how does that get countered by the good beings, the beings that don't have regressive tendencies or negative intentions? Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I don't want this podcast to go away, people going with, oh my God, what's happening in the world? What's actually happening in terms of, the overall vibration of the planet?
I think everything's really great at the moment. I think we're having a lot of assistance from positive beings, but there are a lot of people that are still slumbering,
Hmm.
that take the mainstream narrative as fact, whereas these are the people that need to be awoken so that they realize, not everything is as it seems. So it needs to be allowed to be played out. We can't just have the positive galactics come in, clear up our mess. We're not going to learn nothing, you
Yes,
know? Like
yes.
we're going to be, it's our soul experience to have these lessons to develop past that. If we just get these galactic beings that come in, remove governments, remove all of these negative entities, did we learn anything? Then the negative entities will just come back and we'll be like, oh, there they are again.
Yes, yes.
So we need everybody to wake up and start to realize that these patterns that are going on and that have been going on for hundreds, if not thousands of years. But we are assisted by the positives.
Hmm.
Like positive galactic beings will assist on many levels. And we're seeing this with the ascension.
And when you say things are great, some people might be thinking, well, it doesn't look so great. We have a war and we have the prices going up and
I
cost of
know.
living and all of that. So maybe you could put that into a little bit more perspective. What do you mean when you say things are going great?
Well, from what they've told me on the galactic side, things have got to get worse before they get better. And
Yeah.
I see it in a long kind of timeline as
Hmm.
to this will be great, and the energies will be like elevated on the earth. But for that to happen, the truth has to come out. And for the
Yes.
truth to come out, that means a lot of revelations. And those revelations will be somewhat shocking to a lot of people.
Mm.
The people that are led to believe that their government is helping them, or that religion is there to assist you. Like
Yes.
all of these situations that will come to light, and it'll be like, actually, what they were telling me wasn't correct.
Yes.
And that they need to find their own way so they can be like, there are galactic beings I can connect to that are positive and that will lead us into a good direction. But we
Yes.
need to see that the world war or all these wars are like, where are they? How are they being operated? Who's instigating these? What parts are to play? And this needs to be questioned by the everyday person.
Mm.
So I see that once the everyday person questions that, we can then go to a new earth. And that's
And
why I see it as great.
people who don't quite, so you're taking the long view clearly. And I know what you mean about, sometimes you need a disruptive force to shake things up a little bit, because otherwise people just get comfortable in the status quo, and sometimes you need that. So I can see that we have a few disruptive forces in the world who are doing that in a very shocking way. But for a lot of people, just ordinary people, it feels so outside their sphere of influence. It seems so outside their control. And they might think, well, what can I do? Even if I speak up, well, who cares about what I think? So what would you, taking that helicopter view, what would you suggest that, someone listening to this podcast who's thinking, well, okay, maybe I should ask some questions. Where should they begin?
Hmm. Well, I think begin with discernment
Mhm.
and question everything. Because I think it's difficult to tell someone what to question. It's almost impossible. You can't tell someone what to think. And this is why we're going through this process of revelations. Because people need to see it for themselves. They need to see certain countries' influences on different regions. Like this can't just be told to someone. It's a bit like if the Galactics were to come down and be like, "This is what happened." You'd be like, "Oh yeah," you know.
In fact,
You
there's
need.
probably people listening to this thinking, oh, yeah. But there will be people like that. I agree with you. But I think you're right. And I just wonder whether,
and feel the information. Like
yeah,
if there's a news report and something's going on, you're like, why has there been 70 years of wars in this region? What is going on? Like try and discern and step back from yourself or from what's being told by the mainstream media and
yeah,
question, okay, maybe there's something more to this reality. If we can pop out of our bodies of a night and go elsewhere, then it's not just this 3D realm, you know?
yes. And the
So
other thing I was thinking about what you were saying about, it's if we sort of clean our own, if we become more aware of our own health and what we put into our bodies, maybe we become more receptive to listen
a
to these.
cleaner channel.
Yes, yes. In fact, you've just reminded me to really stop eating sugar.
Sugar's one of the worst things out there. I used to gorge on Maltesers of a night, would never get no dreams then. As soon as I stopped the gorging, then the dreams would come. It would be subtle at first, like I'd just write down one word or something that I'd remember of a night.
Yes.
But now it's full on experiences elsewhere.
Well, I still eat sugar, but I still get vivid dreams. So I'm like thinking, if I stop, what's going to happen?
Imagine what would happen. Yeah.
I'd probably be exhausted every day, like, oh, no sleep, just been dreaming the whole night. But do you physically feel tired when you've been astral traveling?
Depends if I've been on a mission or not.
Hmm.
Like sometimes I'll be off learning things in different universities, more like galactic universities.
Yes,
Yeah, some nights I can't even say that I've woken up. It'll be like I didn't sleep.
yes.
I've been all over the place.
Can you give us an example of a mission that was really, yeah, that kind of thing where you were full on and, danger, drama, whatever?
So some of the because time works very differently outside of like the physical 3D like realm. So you can have an experience that will last like a week in like human 3D time, but it will just be like one mission. So
Right.
you'll be off doing various things. One of them was I was on some planet, and it was some sort of exopolitical situation where this family had to be extracted because they were being attacked for some reason. So I had to go in and get this family. It was two parents and a little girl. Like I think they were probably Palladians, so it would have been some form of Palladian planet. And I had to take them where they could be like protected or away from like hostile actions.
Yes.
While I was doing this, one of the like attackers came in. Like I think it was a regressive Orion being.
Mm.
Like, and then he like there was some sort of scuffle and he went over the balcony into some sort of like rubbish chute. And then after that, I had to get the family out into some craft and then off world. But even as we were leaving, the craft was being attacked. So waking up in the morning, writing down all of that information. Is it like when you go through these astral experiences, these other beings have a lot less sleep than us. So people on Earth will have like 8 to 10 hours sleep.
Mm.
Galactic beings may have 2 hours sleep at best. So I'm a believer that you don't need all of this sleep. It's just more times of rest.
Yes. Yeah. And so do you think that because of your galactic um history, where you came from, that these sort of experiences, situations are unnatural for you? Because, for example, not everybody would be able to deal with that sort of scary situation, fight off, a regressive Orion being or a gray being. They probably just, never want to do astral travel again because it was just so frightening. They just don't want to do it again. So I'm curious to know whether, so if I were to astral travel, I'm very much hoping I don't have to do what you do because that sounds a bit scary. So does everyone have a different experience based on what their own history has been? Or do you get to choose what sort of experience you have?
Well, I don't know if it's a case of choice. I'd say it's more a case of your soul has experiences over time that has built like a condition that you are more like available to participating in. So I've always been, ever since my first incarnations in Lyra, I've always been joined Starfleet and was traveling around meeting different beings and different worlds. So I'm familiar with that, and that's just natural to me. That's like I've been doing it for so many, like however long. But not everybody's going to be like that. There will be people that will be healers.
Yeah.
So some more of the Andromedan beings will be in like with to do with like med beds or healing places. Some of the Palladians will be to do with like crystal healing. So there will be certain beings that get taken to these places.
Yes.
So sometimes I consider myself like a galactic courier. I pick up these people from certain areas and I take them to where the people can do their thing with them.
Mm.
I just transport them from one place to another.
And is the battle sort of telepathic, or is it consciousness that's battling, or in that realm, like, does it almost feel like physical combat?
Yeah, sometimes like yeah, sometimes it's physical combat. Yeah, especially when the guy went over the balcony. Like, but it's both. It can be both physical and telepathic. It depends on who you're dealing with. The Greys try and get you telepathically.
Hmm.
Like, so sometimes when people say, oh, they've seen a demon or they've had like demons, these are quite often greys,
Yeah.
and they can like affect you mentally, affect your thought patterns. So if you don't know yourself and you don't know your thoughts, then you'll be susceptible to whatever demon greys walking by.
Yeah, I know.
So these were a lot of the tests or experiences in the mystery schools. They
Yes.
teach you how to know yourself. So then
Mm,
when an outside consciousness was there, you'd be like, hey, hang on, that's not my thought, that's not my memory.
yeah. Yes. That's so interesting. Tell us a little bit about these nice, benign, and positive beings and how being in their presence feels.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Arcturians are amazing. Their auric field is huge. So
Mhm.
even the Arcturian starseeds can just walk through like a shopping mall, and their aura will be affecting even the humans that are around them, like other humans.
And would we, if we saw them, would we some notice something different about them, or do they appear as just normal humans with just a nice energy?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Like they would have a nice energy. But then there's been many that have been from many star systems. So Andromedans, Palladians, they can all have a different sort of energetic feel.
Mm.
There was an experience last year where when Three Eye Atlas was passing at its closest point, and some of the like positive beings, because I was called to go on board the Three Eye Atlas craft. It's more
Hmm.
of like a crystalline structure, and there was like high level crystalline feline beings, but also like what I was picking up like Andromedan angels. So Andromedans, but at a high level that had like wings and were like wisping about.
Wow.
So there are positive ones depending on like the different dimensions that you go up.
Yes. And my understanding is that these guides and angels are always around us, but they can't intervene until we ask them to help, right?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
at this time of such strife and conflict and killing and all the rest of it, what do you suggest that we can individually and collectively do to get these beings to help us? And how can they help us, given that we've created this mess?
Well, we're not going to get them to do anything. We can just ask them for more assistance in what we would like.
Hmm.
Like, we can't get them to be like, hey, Andromedan angels, can you go sort out that war for us?
Can you get us a ceasefire, please?
Yeah, because
Or end the war? Yeah, that won't work.
like it's been happening for 2,000 years in that region.
Yeah.
So it's not a new situation. It shouldn't come as a surprise to people as to, oh, we should ask them to stop. No, you should stop. Make the decision inside to be like, I'm not going to be participating in that because there is a third option.
Yes. And what's the
They,
third option?
well, they say that you can either engage or not engage, but the third option is to create a new society, a new earth. So you are
Yeah.
bringing in these higher vibrations into the earthly realm. There's no
Yes.
point getting caught up in some ancient Orion war.
Yeah. I love that. And it kind of means that you kind of focus on your own sphere of influence and make a positive change there, and then that ripples out
And
in.
then people will see, hey, what are they doing over there? They've got a
Yeah.
community going on. They're growing their own food. They're not poisoning themselves. They're not like whatever to other people, you
Yes.
know. And
Yeah.
then the galactic beings will assist in that journey. So they'll assist in the positive actions that are being made, not in fueling propaganda or fueling hatred.
Yeah. I want people talking about the new earth is coming, and I've read a little bit about it, and I would love you to explain a bit more what this actually means. Does it mean that we have two earths? Like, I know this is all multidimensional. Does it mean that some of us feel like, oh, look, things are getting better, things are, peaceful, everyone's behaving as they should, whereas people who stay with the old earth, there's still all the conflict. Can you maybe just Help me understand what that means and how it will manifest itself.
So there'll be people that will be moving to different dimensions of reality. I would consider it more to be like layers of reality on top of each other. So there'll be the realm where people are still having conflict and still disempowering themselves and don't have their sovereignty.
Yeah.
Then you go up the level where people have their sovereignty. They're not giving their power away with religions or governments or propaganda with food or whatever,
Mm.
and that they're growing their own food. They have their own communities where they're connecting on a higher level. So they're not involved in that lower, like anguish or hostility. They've phased out of that realm. More and more people are experiencing this. Even when you walk on the street, people may walk into you because you phased out of that reality.
Mm.
They can't see you.
Has that happened to you?
Yeah, a whole
Yeah.
bunch of times. Yeah. I walked through a crime scene in Barcelona
Yes.
where the police were like, get out of here to everybody else. Didn't even see me. Walked right through the middle of it.
That's so funny. Yeah, there's times when I'm in places and I'm like, I'm here. Do you not notice me?" And now
Yeah,
you
you can
tell
be
me this.
queuing up, waiting for something, and
And
then they
everyone
call for the
else is being
person
served.
behind you. Yeah,
Yes. Okay, that's interesting. There's an explanation for that. It's
but it's
not
not
that.
their fault. They just don't see you.
Yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
phased out, so you've got to be like, woo, hello there.
Yes, it's interesting. So we mustn't take it personally. We mustn't think, oh, this person's deliberately being, kind of.
No, it's not their fault. It's just
Yeah, yeah.
that's their dimensional level of experience or lesson. That's
Yes,
where they've chosen to experience and exist at that time.
yeah. So I'm kind of conscious of time, and I want to just maybe bring it to obviously your book, which is fascinating and
I've got it right here.
brilliant because I've got mine on Kindle, so I can't, bring it up and show you.
Oh,
You
amazing.
show that again, please. And I want to ask you, some of the images in there are stunning. So, who created those, or where do you get those images from? And are they from your memory of seeing these beings, or how? Tell me more.
So they guide me to the
Mhm.
images that they want to best represent them.
Right.
So the dolphin being that I met on board one of the craft,
Yes.
I was looking for so many different images, and they were like, "That's the one." And they're always so specific about which image to be used to best represent them.
So someone's already put these images out there, and you were looking to see which one. Is that
And
right?
I like so the cover's done with I've used AI to design the characters.
I see.
So it took a while to do because to have each of the characters in each position and then to be portrayed in that way.
Wow.
So I'd never used AI for image creation before.
Oh,
So just doing the cover was a like an experience.
oh, wow. I hadn't realized that you'd actually done them yourself because I was curious to know where, did somebody make them for you? That's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So AI helped you take what you saw in your mind's eye, and then with the help of your guides, you knew which
yeah.
attribution was correct.
I make a bunch of options
Ah,
and then I my guides are like, "Yep, that's the one."
amazing. I think I'm going to go look at those pictures with fresh eyes now. Do you have a sense about what your guides want you to do with this particular, in this chapter of your life where you were Fulcrum? What would they, how are you creating this new earth, your little piece of the earth?
Well, what they've told me in December was that I'm a bridge between worlds.
Hmm.
So they want me to bring whatever's going on up there and make it like grounded and understandable in the earthly realm.
Yes.
Because going forward, you're going to be seeing a lot more craft in the sky, a lot more like beings or people that look unusual, and a lot more people having abilities where you're like, okay, something's going on there. You'll have
Mhm.
more telepathic connection with people. So people are going to want a grounded understanding of what's actually going on here. So we can just have a conversation and not for it to be strange or weird.
Yes. So important, isn't it? It's a starting point to get people to also, I think also there's such stigma when people start saying things that are not mainstream, suddenly it's like, there's something wrong with you. Like you got some mental illness, you're probably schizophrenic if you're hearing voices and seeing. So there's a lot of fear in people to not even admit to having some of these abilities, right? So,
Absolutely,
so
yeah.
having people like you, maybe, conversations like this, hopefully,
And to understand where they come from, why they're feeling these things, like
yes,
what's happening, like
yeah,
some of these, because I get there's a bunch of people that have messaged me saying I've had different experiences, like, and so I pick up that, oh, maybe this is from a past life, you know, that you've brought into this life. So these can be cleared so that you can be freer and lighter.
yes. And is that kind of your role, that you help them understand the meaning of what they're feeling, or do you also help them to clear some of that stuff? I mean,
I give them the insights. Like,
mm,
I'm not a healer
mm,
because I don't think anybody can heal anyone else. You can give people the tools to heal themselves,
mm,
so then they go away with the information and to find out how they can do it themselves. Because if
yeah,
someone else heals you, you've skipped the process.
yes, true.
You didn't learn it for yourself. You've missed that whole part. So if you have the tools to do it yourself, crack on, then you've got it,
Yeah,
and then you can share your gifts and abilities with others.
yes,
I get a buzzing now, and that's how we change the whole world and get the new earth.
yeah. And so how would you say, for someone like me, this is a realm that I'm curious about, and I think one of the things that maybe maybe that's been very evident to me, especially in the last 10 years, is that I love being open to things. And if something's interesting, I'll go down that rabbit hole, learn as much as I can, and then I move on to the next rabbit hole, which is quite fun. And so this is the latest rabbit hole that I'm just like literally like, oh, this is interesting. Do I want to go in there? What would you say that for someone like me, what does this mean, and what should I take away from this particular curiosity?
Keep exploring.
Hmm.
Keep dirtying your fluffy white tail down the rabbit hole,
Yes.
because there's going to be much more that is coming, and much more that you'll be able to give to others as well.
Yes. Yes.
Because that's what it's all about. It's about sharing what we know with others, so that we can change this whole place
Yeah. I
and
had one. Sorry.
mm, making it more comfortable and having spaces where we can discuss openly.
Yes. Without feeling stigmatized or judged.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And for the times when it feels scary, it's how do we know who our guides are? They're particular, you mentioned, well, it's about healing yourself, but I think there are some people like the quantum healing thing that actually helps us connect with things that we probably would take so very long to ever connect to. So there is a role for those kind of healing sessions as well. And then we can
for sure.
take that and then maybe use that to accelerate our journey
Of
of
course.
healing.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah. I had one session in which I learned that I have 50 to 80 guides around me.
Wow.
That was really cool. I don't know, I don't necessarily know who they are. Maybe that will take another session. But maybe
Well,
tell me.
I checked in this morning, um,
Yes.
your origins and your connections.
Uh-huh.
So, like, you are from Sirius B,
Okay.
yeah, and like that you do have a connection to the White Lions from Sirius A,
Oh,
but,
wow.
but this is not through. It's through the mystery school teachings.
Right.
So your like exploration of these rabbit holes is probably connection to this mystery school understandings.
Mm.
And then you're also connected to Mer people and Lemuria.
Tell me what Lemuria is, please.
It's a civilization that was running concurrently with Atlantis, but also slightly before. It was called like it was known as like the mother civilization on Earth.
Right.
It was kind of before Atlantis, where galactic beings came down and tried to make like a new Earth vibe on Earth with crystalline energies, crystalline technologies. Um, Interestingly, the main spiritual hub was in India. And what I got was more information will come through in person if you do a quantum healing hypnosis session.
In person.
Yeah, if you do an in-person one, your nightly experience that night will just expand and
Yeah.
like, yeah, you'll get more things. So
That's
that's why, like, because in Lemuria and even in India, you see on a lot of the buildings there are aquatic sort of beings on the top on the sculptures, whether it's mermaids or tridents
mm.
um, or Poseidon. There's like a whole load of aquatic type situations, and this goes back to Lemuria.
So the Mer people are from Lemuria.
Well,
Is that
they'll be originally from Sirius B,
okay? Which
but
is aquatic.
Lemuria on Earth was a whole range of positive beings that came down.
Yeah.
Syrians, Andromedans, Palladians, Lyrans, Arcturians. They were all here trying to make like a new positive area for everybody.
Yeah.
And this came to an end with the sort of Atlantean conflict.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing that. So fascinating. Oh, well, so I think my final question to you, Fulcrum, is that I always ask my guests, what does a fulfilled life mean to you? And what does it look like? And you've had such an interesting journey already. And where you are today, what would you say that term of a fulfilled life means for you?
I don't know, that's a crazy one.
Hmm.
Because I've always traveled, whether it's this life, my galactic lives. So I always say I'm just passing through. So if I can leave, if I can like bridge the gap and offer some insights from other realms, then that would be great.
And do you have a sort of parting message for people who are listening, who are new to this journey? What would be kind of the first baby steps towards, this kind of connection with their higher self and so forth?
Like contemplation, meditation, but it doesn't have to be sitting in a lotus position up in some Tibetan mountain. You can just be washing the dishes or going for a walk.
Mm.
And if you allow this sort of dimensional fog to come down, then you'll be in that telepathic collective where you'll be able to get different information.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful.
And you'll be able to connect with your guides, connect with other beings. But they're only going to give you as much as you're capable of handling.
Mm,
So if you go in and be like, I want to see my best guide or whatever, my highest guide, like they're going to give you the level that is best for you at that stage. Otherwise, if you see some geometric thing that's in front of you all spinning around, you're going to be like, what the hell is that? And you will be above you, at that point. But it will be at a level where you'll be able to understand it. Maybe nature spirits will come out to start with.
yes, that's beautiful. I think Dolores Cannon says, doesn't she, or she used to say that you don't give a baby a steak. You give it like little soft food, get them ready to be able to eat it. So in a similar way, we will be given what we're ready for, and
Exactly.
we have to make ourselves ready for that next level. Um, I
Cleaning your physical vehicle will help in that.
mhm.
Um, Staying away from like fluoride water, sugars, meat, um, yeah, other things that are gonna kind of pollute the physical vehicle so it's not as clear.
Yeah. It's also giving yourself permission to listen to your intuition and not let it be silenced by your logical mind and
Absolutely. And
yeah,
trust yourself.
and trust yourself.
Trust when you get these intuitive nudges, like, what's that all about?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then once you follow the first one, okay, then it will lead on. My guides give me nudges all of the time. I was replacing bathroom sealant around my mother's bathtub,
Hmm.
And she was saying, "What do we need for it?" And I was like, "I don't know. Maybe the guides will let me know." And the guides came through and let me know, "Hey, there's this sealant online with this particular name." So I Googled it, and yeah, they assisted in
Love
just
that.
mundane topics.
Yes. See, I go to Google first. Maybe I should just ask my guides who would be quicker.
Yeah,
They probably wouldn't come to me the way they do to you. Or they might.
sometimes I'm making breakfast or washing dishes, and I'm like, "What the hell is that?" And they give me some random word. I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay, that's very helpful. Thank you." And
And you have to,
always thank them as well. Thank them for the nudge, because then you acknowledge that
yeah.
the communication is happening
Yes. So important, isn't it?
for
Yeah.
sure.
Yes. Lovely. I've enjoyed this conversation so much. And thank you to our guides for allowing the Wi-Fi to be uninterrupted. So, is there any other sort of parting wisdom you'd like to share with us?
Thank you for having me on, and thank you for getting this information out there. I did call upon my guides before the call if we could get a Wi-Fi that was stable. So it got a bit choppy at the start, but they found a solution. So
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you to your guides for that.